Welcome, bros and brosephines. My name's Albert von Stollen, and today I'm gonna be talking about the masculinity of Tamahiko Shima from Taishou Otome Otogibanashi. Why? Because I'm of the view that he's a man among men in not only anime, but he is even manlier than the alpha males and the sigma males of the real world. Before I get interrupted, let's go! I've promised in my Taishou Otome Otogibanashi reviews that I'll be making a video on this topic and I'm here to fulfill it. So, who is this man and why do I say that he's manly? Let's go for a recap first. Tamahiko Shima is a guy in his teens who is depressed due to the loss of three things in his life: his mom, the use of his right hand, and his dad's trust. He was sent away to lay down and rot in his grandfather's home in the mountains of Chiba. That had made him depressed to the point of being suicidal. So, what does depression have anything to do with being a man? Simple. We live in an age where men are struggling with loneliness and depression en masse. The causes range from relationship problems to fatherlessness to a lack of support when it comes to this problem. In the worst case scenario, the depressed guy would take his own life. As for Tamahiko, all that changed when Yuzuki shows up and she's treating him kindly. I'll talk about Yuzuki in depth in the next video. For now, I'll be going after Tamahiko. Because of Yuzuki's kindness, Tamahiko slowly and surely improves for the better. What's the advice that's given to depressed dudes? It's usually, just self-improve, bro! While I am of the view that self-improvement does work, it's not the sole cure to guys getting depressed and having suicidal ideations. I say this because this begs the question, what is a depressed man self-improving for? Intentions are important because, as we'll see, that makes all the difference. Because we're living in a fatherless age, we see a lot of men who act as surrogate dads to such men. The only decent one that I've seen in this is Dr. Jordan Peterson, and that's because he's qualified to do this with his practice as a clinical psychologist. When you go beyond Dr. Peterson though, this is where we see problems. This is because of Dr. Peterson's success, ironically enough. Many knockoffs show up, and while these men have been around here before him, they're blowing up ever since he became mainstream a few years ago. When the surrogate dads outside of Dr. Peterson teach men how to steal other men's fiancés, to growling at women in public, to not taking care of your own kids, you know we're in deep crap. With Dr. Peterson, he tells people to improve themselves and start small before going big with his clean your room advice as shown here.
Clean your room until when you go in there, you start doing things that are good for you. So because cleaning it isn't just organize. It's not just making sure that it's not messy, man. It's organizing it so that it's a place where your being can properly manifest itself. It's a place that should invite you to do the things that are good for you in the world. And so you should be thinking when you have a room, if you're fortunate enough to have a room, you think, okay, I want to organize this room so that the probability that I'll do the things that I know I should do is maximally heightened. Get yourself a good desk if you need a desk. Get yourself a good bed that you like set the bloody place up so that when you walk in there you think, Jesus, a civilized human being could really live in here. And then every time you walk in there, your room will remind you that the proper way to behave in there is to behave as a civilized being. Responsible, intelligent, forward-looking, articulate, concerned about doing what's good in the most courageous and responsible possible way.
What does this awesome man who helps out lonely men have anything to do with an anime character named Tamahiko Shima, you may ask? I'll be exploring it here. Tamahiko improves himself not because he wants to impress Yuzuki, but because of three reasons. First, he does this for himself because he got inspired by both Yuzuki's kindness and Tamako's determination. As early as episode 4, we see Tamahiko's desire to improve himself when Yuzuki assures him that everything's gonna be alright. After that episode and Tamako's determination to study to become a doctor in the following episode, Tamahiko doesn't just decide to improve himself. He actually does it. This ranges from him studying for school to him actually going to school and even exercising, among other things. Second, he improves himself because he wants to be the man that takes care of Yuzuki. That goes beyond him wanting to merely impress a woman, but wanting to take care of a woman that he cares about is quite the manly motivation to improve himself. He has shown to have dedication to wanting to make Yuzuki happy, ranging from when he resisted Ryo's advances in episodes 5 and 6, to him never giving up in his studies. Lastly, there's the fact that he prefers doing the right thing instead of giving in to temptations. He cultivates virtue instead of acting like a simp. That had managed to endear Yuzuki to him without even attempting at impressing her. If anything, he's been doing the type of things that Dr. Peterson tells people to do in an age that came before Dr. Peterson. After all, Taishou Otome is set in the early 1920s, while Dr. Peterson was born in 1962. The reason why self-improvement is given this aura of profoundness is because we live in an age where mediocrity is praised rather than avoided. People see Dr. Peterson's advice as something deeply profound because of it. Hence, this is why Tamahiko was able to come to a devastated Tokyo on foot instead of being cooped up in his room worrying about Yuzuki. This is especially shown when Tamahiko decided to rescue Yuzuki starting from episode 11 and right into episode 12. In the modern day, this is akin to helping people out during a war, natural disaster, or crime instead of simply virtue signaling about it online, which I talked about in my previous video. Please do check it out in the description below. In comparison, the reason why these terminally online masculinity bros improve themselves is simply to become high-value simps. Why? Because they perceive their value relative to getting validation from women. If a man gets to sleep around with a woman, then he sees his value go up in the eyes of himself, his bros, and the women that he's sleeping around with. If not, then he's seen as a failure by both himself and everyone around him. This is why men get shamed for being virgins nowadays. It's all social proof for validation. No amount of my locks and keys is gonna change this. If anything, the whole if a key opens a lot of locks, then it's a master key. But if a lock is opened by lots of keys, then it's a crappy lock shtick from the terminally online masculinity bros is just them coping about the fact that they have made themselves into high-value simps. The pickup artists, who had rebranded themselves to relationship coaches a few years ago, among other types of terminally online masculinity bros such as the MGTOWs, the Alpha Males, and the Sigma Males, teach men to exercise and learn how to pick up women just to be useful to women, and the women that they're chasing after aren't even decent women to begin with. At least, Tamahiko improves himself because he cares about Yuzuki, and Yuzuki is an awesome woman. I'll be talking about Yuzuki in the next video because I need to make this succinct. Let's look at how Tamahiko deals with his friends in the local community that he's in. He first starts off as a shut-in who doesn't know how to deal with anyone else. He did start off to be less of a shut-in in episode 2 when he went to Tokyo with Yuzuki, but a problem had arisen. Him being a shut-in had gotten so bad that in episode 4, Tamako has had to go down to the local town to look for a doctor, all because Yuzuki had collapsed. He was also unable to defend himself when the doctor decided to go off on him afterwards. But after Yuzuki had reassured him in the same episode, he continued to be less of a shut-in starting in episode 5. This is shown by him ranging from reassuring Tamako in episode 5 to him going down to the town in the same episode, dealing with Ryo, teaching Ryo's brothers along with the other neighborhood kids in school, to his friendship with the Seratori siblings. As for the local community, he had been helping the local neighborhood kids about schoolwork, starting in episode 7 to him giving shelter to the people of Chiba to his place during the Great Kanto earthquake in episode 11, to him helping Ryo look for Ryotaro in the same episode, to him along with Yuzuki, Ryo, Tamako, Hakurin, and Kotori helping the people of Tokyo from episodes 11 to 12. He's serving the people in the places that he went to starting in episode 7 no less. Tamahiko is a man who struggled with depression and pessimism. As late as episode 4, he reminds himself that he's a pessimist to no avail. And yet, he shows us that we can get beyond that. We need better examples of masculinity, especially now that we're in an age where there's many of grifter preying upon the insecurities of men. Fortunately for us, the likes of Tamahiko Shima and Dr. Peterson are here to show us just that. How to be gentlemen instead of being simps. For the men who think that following the advice of terminally online masculinity bros is a good idea, let me say this. You are better than being a simp. Please like, share, and subscribe, and that's gonna be helping this channel. And remember, we are all gonna make it, bros and brosephines.